The AI bubble is about to burst, says Cole Hastings. I'll be going over Cole's video as a reaction with commentary, interpretation. In this video, his video currently has over 200,000 views. My name is Madak. I am the founder of this company, Grobo, on the shirt. And I am both an entrepreneur with about 19 years of experience. I am also a developer. And I have developed and worked with AI foundational models, both developing them myself from literally scratch, as well as doing my own original research on AI, as well as working on applied AI, meaning like using ChatGPT's API, to create apps and things like this. So I think I can add some interesting commentary on top of this video. Um, so let's take a look at it and find out if the AI bubble is actually bursting or perhaps something different is happening. I think in particular, I might share a really interesting perspective about if the AI bubble was to burst, it might not be something that people actually see coming and not for the reason that people think it will burst. So without further ado, let's start the video.
Can I show you a video really quick? No? Well, I'm gonna show you anyways.
Abraham Lincoln was alive, he would be a Democrat!
No, Abraham Lincoln would be Republican!
I'm quite fond of JoJo's Bizarre Adventure.
Obviously this is AI, but it was actually reposted to Instagram from a new app called Sora. The main idea? Create a social media platform exclusively for AI videos because we were all asking for something like this, right? No, seriously, who the asked for this? In fact,
well, in reality, no one actually asked for Sora, but no one asked for automobiles or many other inventions and innovations. I think I'm going to give Cole the benefit of the doubt here. I think what he means is, like basically like, what's the point of this? Like, what problem does this actually solve for people? The utility seems to be questionable. Ironically, though, for many other people who have already complained about Sora, it's only working in a way to promote it. It is still currently, as the time of this video, one of the top, if not the number one most downloaded app on the App Store. And again, it's invite only. So those downloads are coming allegedly from just people who've been invited by other users. So it's quite popular. So in terms of who asked for it, I mean, people are asking for it to be fair and accurate. And by the way, one of the taglines on Cole's channel here, which I clicked over to, I had not heard of Cole before. In a big headline on the banner image, it says nuance. So I assume that Cole is someone who, is someone who's searching for truth, a truth seeker. As I hope that, most people are who are watching this. And in general, I think it's good for everyone to be a truth seeker. But I'm going to come back to this point about nuance later on. Let's continue watching.
who asked for most of the things that these AI companies are building? For a while now, corporations have made it seem like the rise of AI was inevitable. From early pop culture references to advancements in technology prioritizing speed and convenience over everything, artificial intelligence felt like an unavoidable development that's going to slowly seep into more and more of our daily lives. Until it doesn't. I believe the AI industry is in a very big bubble, and with the amount of money that the biggest tech companies are pouring into it, that bubble might burst soon. So today I want to explain to you how the AI bubble might burst, why the acceleration of AI slop is actually a good thing for the future, and what that better future might look like when the dust has settled.
How much are you spending, would you say, over the next few years?
I don't know. Do you feel like AI slop is accelerating? Leave a comment below. Let me know. And if this topic is interesting to you in this format, is valuable, interesting, perhaps a little bit entertaining to you as well, please leave a comment, leave a like, and be sure to subscribe. And it's very encouraging to me to get that feedback. Encourages me to make more content like this. But I don't see AI slop accelerating. And I think one thing that a lot of people I think they have a really great point about AI slop. And I have plenty to say about the AI slopogopoly. That's trademarked, by the way. That's all me, baby. So you'll be hearing that in the future because I think it's quite catchy. The AI slopogopoly. I'll make a video dedicated just to that coming up. Yeah, give a like for the AI slopogopoly, please. But anyway, like, are we people who make this argument recently? It's only like one step forward. It's not like two steps in terms of thinking. It's like, okay, well, yeah, AI slop is a problem. People get stimulated by it, and then you get bored of it. It gets easier to recognize. It's just like kind of like constant like trend jacking, like all these kind of police videos of like a cat driving a car, or SpongeBob stealing a car, getting arrested, Peter Griffin from Family Guy, but like a real life version getting arrested, the Queen of England, on like some Gen Z type of moped driving around outside of 7-Eleven, grabbing some snacks, getting arrested. Everyone just kind of like trend jacking each other with these videos, and then they constantly kind of like just peak really quickly and then go down. It's like that is kind of factor number one. But factor number two is that if the content is not engaging, if it's not going to actually attract people in a sustainable way, the incentive for all of these platforms, YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, X, all of them, the incentive is to just decrease the visibility by recognizing such content, categorizing it properly, and then not showing it as much. But it's so long as the content gets views and brings in more time and attention from everyone, I mean, perhaps there's a point of overdose. I think that would actually be good. And maybe that's where Cole is going here with his point that the acceleration of AI slop could actually be a good thing. Well, I guess we'll just have to wait and see. But I think that to stop at that point where it's like just the acceleration of AI slop and AI slop in your face all the time, it's going to accelerate the downfall of AI. I mean, not necessarily, because again, that assumes that the platforms don't have an incentive and aren't going to act on that incentive to mitigate potential risk and potential loss as a result. Let's keep watching.
Oh gosh. I mean, I think it's probably going to be something like, I don't know, at least $600 billion through 28.
That's a clip from September 4th at the White House when Donald Trump hosted Mark Zuckerberg and many other tech giants for dinner. What was the $600 billion investment he was talking about? That's the amount of money Meta plans to spend solely on building out data centers, aka buildings that hold GPUs to...
I mean, do Meta and these companies, they don't have that money in cash? It's fascinating. I mean, it's such a huge number. I mean, I think that one of the largest stockpiles of cash in the world is Berkshire Hathaway's. I think they had they had like 300 billion something dollars in treasury bonds, essentially, liquid cash for the most part. Meta, I mean, obviously very valuable company, but how are they going to make that investment? Debt, equity? They don't have that amount of cash. I mean, within the next 3 years, will they? And a lot of it's pie in the sky.
Train AI by 2028. And in 2025 alone, tech companies are projected to spend about $400 billion on infrastructure to train and operate AI models.
Now, there's an underlying assumption. I'm going to let it play for a little longer here. I don't want to keep interrupting too much because, we're going to get a little bit further in, and then I'll pause with more depth here. But one thing I want you to look out for, try to find in this video as we move forward, what is the underlying assumption that Cole, as well as other people who are talking about the AI bubble, the alleged AI bubble, which I do believe that there is an AI bubble, but I believe it for different reasons for everyone else. But try to understand, like, what is that maybe huge blind spot? It's almost being talked about right now on the screen. See if you can uncover what it is, and I will address it a little bit later towards the end of this video.
Derek Thompson put it into a rather grim perspective when comparing this type of spending to the moon landing. He states, the Apollo program allocated about $300 billion in inflation-adjusted dollars to get America to the moon between the early 1960s and the early 1970s. The AI build-out requires companies to collectively fund a new Apollo program not every 10 years, but every 10 months. These numbers are incomprehensible, and they simply just don't make sense when you think about it, because how do these companies expect to make all this money back? Well, they don't. They don't expect to make it back, but they're just going to keep spending it anyway. One reason big tech is trying to blow up this bubble even further is because, surprise, it warps how well the economy is doing. According to data from the Department of Commerce, investment in software and computer equipment, not even counting the data center buildings, accounted for a quarter of all economic growth in Q2 of this year. Investor Paul Kodrowski found that in the first half of this year, the data center related spending probably accounted for half of the entire US GDP growth. And for the first time, spending on data centers has now surpassed office construction. But it's not just the big tech firms doing the spending. Private equity firms have been pouring in capital too. Brookfield Asset Management, a major real estate investor, projects that building out AI infrastructure could absorb around $7 trillion in investment over the next decade. And on top of that, there's been reports that these companies are downplaying their infrastructure spending, inflating their profits even further. But before I explain that, I gotta enjoy a cup of coffee from today's sponsor, Cometeer. If you're like me, then part of the reason you drink coffee is not just for the boost in focus, but a description and order yours today. An article in The Economist titled "The $4 Trillion Accounting Puzzle at the Heart of the AI Cloud" explores what big tech is doing to cover up their egregious spending. First, they state some of the facts we've already observed. Between 2024 and 2026, the AI Big Five companies will pour over $1 trillion into data centers and infrastructure. But the way these companies are accounting for the lifespan and depreciation of their AI hardware is where the accounting issues rise. NVIDIA, who makes most of the AI chips, said it would create and unveil a new chip every year instead of every 2 years. This means that older models could become obsolete much faster than reported. But at the same time, major firms have extended their estimated hardware lifespans to reduce depreciation costs and make profits look stronger. Microsoft pushed it up from 4 to 6 years in 2022. Alphabet did the same in 2023. Amazon and Oracle changed it from 5 to 6 in 2024. And in January, Meta moved from 5 to 5.5 years. In other words, these companies are making their profits look stronger by claiming that their hardware lasts longer even as new chips make them obsolete faster. If AI chips actually last only 2 to 3 years instead of 5 to 6, profits could be severely overstated. Analysts estimate 5 to 10% of earnings per share could vanish from increased depreciation, and the total hit across the top 5 firms could reach $780 billion to $1.6 trillion in lost market value.
Sounds reasonable. 5 to 10% might be an underestimate. I haven't run the math personally, but it sounds reasonable. I mean, if NVIDIA and then AMD coming out with their own chips, they're kind of banking big on their new flagship set of chips. And they recently did one of these circular deals with OpenAI that are also questionable, which Cole is going to talk about here in a second, I believe. Circular deals are very strange. But again, in case you're not getting it, basically they're using equipment to run these AI models, to run these AI brains, if you will, and also to train these AI brains, because they need a lot of compute power, a lot of servers that they can run to actually train the AI brains to create the AI brain, and then they need to deploy that AI brain once it's fully trained and constructed and learned and has all the data and thought processes in itself where it's created. I'm trying to keep the explanation like simple, non-technical, but once that AI brain is trained, it needs to be deployed across all these basically consumer servers for consumers, like customers like you and I, if we're paying for a premium subscription to Chat GPT or Claude, or even just a free version. And so they need infrastructure in terms of servers and these GPUs to do all the mathematical calculations. It's a lot of it is really just addition and multiplication, but it's massively parallelized across a GPU in order to run these calculations and to be able to return back to us quickly the outputted text, like as an answer to our questions. So, but if that equipment is basically being deprecated, like it's aging, maybe it gets too hot, maybe I don't know what the average lifespan is in terms of at a molecular level of how long these actually last. But then NVIDIA is also coming out, which competitors could be adopting, better, faster, more efficient chips. What's the likelihood that they're going to want to upgrade anyway to these better, faster chips, and or that these existing data centers will just age out? in terms of the speed, capability, reliability of the actual hardware.
Additionally, that investor I mentioned earlier, Paul Kodrowski, found that big AI firms are also shifting huge amounts of AI spending off their books into SPVs, or special purpose vehicles, that disguise the cost of the AI build-out. This is really just another clever way to move the financing off their balance sheet. Out of these developments and findings, a concerning trend can be observed, one that might seem obvious to you now, but it needs to be reiterated. This incredible growth we're seeing in the stock market and economy is based on AI hype and momentum more than ever. As Derek Thompson puts it, whereas equity prices have historically followed earnings fundamentals, today's market is driven overwhelmingly by momentum, as retail investors pile into meme stocks and AI companies because they think everybody else is piling into meme stocks and AI companies.
Yeah, it's fascinating. I saw another graph from a different article and a different video talking about how if you looked at the S&P 500 for the last 2 years, that growth would be nearly flat if you removed the big tech companies in terms of this so-called momentum that they've been gathering around AI in particular. That basically growth is flat. We're seeing it all the alleged growth is just coalescing around these tech companies and the I won't call it speculation because AI is today's version, like this moment's version of artificial intelligence. I believe that there will be different, newer, smarter, more human-like, and even more alien-like intelligences coming in the future in terms of AI. But it is inherently valuable, like absolutely. However, I think that is fascinating to think about in terms of the overall global view of the economy of the S&P 500. I mean, these are the most valuable companies curated in the world, right?
But the hype is beginning to die out, and the consequences are not going to be very good. In their latest bi-weekly survey of AI adoption, the US Census Bureau found evidence of an obvious drop-off in corporate AI use. Usage of AI tools among companies with over 250 employees dropped from nearly 14% in mid-June to under 12% in August. The software itself, in some regards, seems to be regressing too. OpenAI's latest model, GPT-5, performed worse on benchmark tests than its peers.
Yeah, with GPT-5, I personally have just, I don't know, you kind of need to, it seems like you still need to call it an idiot at least once for it to actually just kind of know common sense in terms of like what you're actually asking for, or like just key information that it left out, like it just didn't completely answer the question, which is partially amazing to me. It is amazing. I mean, this is GPT-5. There's so much speculation for, I think it was over a year or more, about what GPT-5 would be like. They had these 4.1 model, for example, that rolled out. I think there was also GPT 4.5, which is supposedly better at writing, I believe. So it's strange. It's strange, and the speed of output, it still seems not really making much improvement there either. In addition, I mean, I'm a paying customer, and then on top of that too, they have the advanced voice mode, which was trumpeted as this big, conversational AI. But wow, is it for real time advanced voice mode? Wow, is that model, that agent? I mean, it's fast response, but God, it is operating on like a quarter of the brain power or something. It's so incredibly just useless. You try to talk to it, like use it like a coach. You ask it to like ask you questions. You ask it to maintain a certain tone or cadence or manner of speaking back and forth to you to like interrogate an idea, um, or to like even like to problem solve, to listen. I have friends who have used it for like personal reasons, and it's so incredibly useless. It's so incredibly, so I've stopped using it. I'd rather talk. I'd rather just write in my journal or speak out loud to just a voice recorder where there is no response. It's just more of like a psychology trick of knowing that something is listening and that it's being recorded. I find that to be way more productive and useful than talking to their advanced voice mode. So it is. So Cole, I believe, has a strong point here, and it is shockingly surprising about. I mean, I think it's also because like as there has to be some sort of almost like AI human psychology label to what is happening here, because we are evaluating the intelligence of an artificial intelligence as, maybe just broadly labeling it like everyday consumers are evaluating it. And are people really seeing a difference between, say, GPT-4o and GPT-5? I don't think so. I mean, if anything, people preferred GPT-4o because it was more simping to them. It was more agreeable and more kind of like, self-flattering, self-validating, which psychologically is bad for everyone. You don't want to be like steamrolled in a conversation. No one does. A lot of people just want to be validated, and that's a normal kind of human need. But yeah, I mean, to be as agreeable as it even still is to some extent. I think Claude has done a way better job at this, but the quality and the consistency of Claude has also been mixed, where it seems to vacillate between being like too opinionated and actually denying like talking about certain subjects. And it's like, oh no, and like gets so dramatic, like so self-righteous and moralizing. On the other hand, it's like, oh no, I am so sorry. I definitely, and because you say one thing and you want to know that it's actually kind of evaluating more objectively, and it's like, but it just immediately flip-flops into like, oh, let me just agree with you, like you're absolutely right, honestly this is brilliant. It's like, dude, like I'm just trying to get to like the most optimum answer here, like help me evaluate what is true and or what is predictively best based on a set of reasoning and logic and evidence. Let's observe, let's measure the distance between reality and the goal. Anyway, I think that's a pretty common observation. And if you've seen a similar observation in your experience, I would be curious to know, do you see that it's getting smarter? Is the user experience getting better? Is it getting more useful for you? AI and OpenAI in particular, whose brand is absolute crap in my opinion, from a marketing point of view. I mean, they just kind of look more and more like the bad guys, or at least just like an untrustworthy entity. And they're making all these. I mean, another YouTuber who was on their bandwagon for a long time, Dave Shapiro, he was saying in a recent video how OpenAI has lost the mandate, and I believe what he means by that is that they no longer, they might have been the innovator to usher in the age of AI in terms of going mainstream, right, with ChatGPT at the end of on November 30th, 2022, at the end of 2022. But they've lost the mandate in terms of their mission. There's more of a, they just seem like more of a, I think Claude has really taken up that mantle. They seem much more still concerned and putting out useful, helpful research about AI safety. And OpenAI she seems so much more profit motivated, and just seems like they're flailing. I mean, again, you don't really know what you don't know behind the scenes, but they're making all of these deals, these circular deals, and it's like, why? Well, perhaps because they think the bubble is about to burst. Let's keep listening.
But the most staggering statistic, 95% of US companies that took up AI reported that the software has failed to generate any sort of new revenue. So when exactly will this bubble burst? Because it's gotta give eventually, right?
Okay. So before we talk about like Cole's theory on why the AI bubble is about to burst at some point, he's done an okay job of establishing it as a potential bubble. Sure, I'll give you that. I think there's a much stronger argument to be made, but and I think he's missed one underlying aspect. And again, see if you can spot it before the end of this video. But that 95% study, I've researched this a little bit. All right, so I'm not going to claim to be an expert on it yet. But this is one of those reports, one of those headlines that gets cited over and over and over again without any nuance, okay? And I have these other tabs open here because I want to relate this what has become a talking about. Oh, 95% of AI pilots at 95% of AI program deployments at companies are failing, and it's like, okay, these are at certain companies of a certain size, right? They're operating in a certain way, and how do we define failing and how do we define success? Furthermore, I mean, these are white collar, like large white collar companies, right? They're trying to automate work. To what degree has it been considered? Is there an incentive for the employees to make sure that they don't succeed, or at least don't fully succeed, right? Up to the benchmark of whatever success is considered within that context, within that specific company. And for managers, like, so, because like if you're training something or integrating something that literally can do your job better, is there an incentive for you to ensure that it doesn't do as well as perhaps it can? Yes, there is. Because although managers might say, hey, we're not going to fire you. We're just going to move you to a higher level task once this is automated. It's all good. But employees, a lot just won't believe that. And what percentage of a small team even do you need to believe that, or to be skeptical of that claim for managers before the implementation just doesn't go well? So, with and I think, again, I looked at, like, I think it was like Fortune 500 companies, primarily Fortune 1000. But again, I relate this because I think there's so much more nuance. Speaking of nuance, I mean, it's really a shame that hold on a second, that Cole, let's open his channel here.
Every generation.
I mean, Cole has this seek nuance, right? But he clearly didn't do it here. Just breezes right on past it. Maybe he has a separate video about it. I don't really know. But he seems to be accepting the overall premise of it. And again, I relate this to the Amazon grocery fiasco, which everyone took up the mantle of saying, oh, Amazon has these grocery stores. And so self-righteously, everyone's like, oh, AI, look, it's all fake. It sucks. Actually, it's just humans behind the curtain, right? I mean, here's a quick clip to refresh you on that if you're not familiar.
What if we have grocery stores without, get this, any cashiers? That's probably the dumbest idea I've ever heard. No, trust. Imagine this. You walk in, scan your Amazon membership, and then you just walk out. So you want them to steal? I'm lost. No. Once they walk out, the card will get automatically charged with whatever items that they have. Okay, I guess that sounds kind of cool, but how would we even do that? With AI. AI? Yeah, we can use artificial intelligence, some fancy cameras and sensors to automatically keep track of what everyone's holding. Maybe you've been watching too many TV shows, but AI isn't even like that yet. But I like this idea, and I'm willing to bet that other investors and people do too as well. How about this? We use cameras and sensors to keep track of everything, but instead of just relying on AI, we just hire hundreds of people from India. What? Yeah, it would be great. We'll have hundreds of contractors from India watching everyone at all time and manually reviewing each transaction so it looks automated. This way we can test this idea and see if people even like it without spending millions of dollars. But isn't that, I don't know, lying? No.
Okay. So, and you can see, again, like, the self-righteous tone here as well.
This, sophisticated AI, et cetera, was really powered by somewhere around 1,000 human beings who were watching and checking what you were putting in your basket and making sure that you were getting charged for the right things, who were based in India. So shoppers were reporting, you can come back up on me at this point, shoppers were reporting that they weren't getting their receipts for hours and hours. They're like, what is going on here?
Oh my God, it's so hilarious. So the self-righteousness is just, I mean, it's sad because the truth is that there was actual technology involved here. It's almost as if this alleged reporter, I mean, I'm not trying to personally attack anyone here, but it's sad. Like, did you prepare? Like, here's the same article that she was citing. And it's like just the headline, right? AI checkout was actually powered by 1,000 human video reviewers. But again, if you go deeper into it, a May 2023 report from the information revealed the myriad of tech problems Amazon was still having. The report said that Amazon had more than 1,000 people in India working on Just Walk Out as of mid-2022, whose jobs included, so this was one of the tasks that the 1,000 people were working on, included manually reviewing transactions and labeling images. from videos to train Just Walkout's machine learning model. I mean, maybe were they all dedicated to just labeling the data? Because labeling data is one of the key aspects of training an AI model. And we'll get back to the AI bubble video in just a second, but this is very important for understanding, is there an AI bubble or not, and what is actually going to happen? What is actually going to be predictive of what's happening? Because again, claiming there's an AI bubble, it's a trend now. And I think there's something to be said of contrarians, because if the whole market can be so self-aware to point out that there's a bubble before there's a bubble, there's almost like a self-correcting mechanism that comes from that will, at least if there is a bubble in the way that they're saying that there is, or claiming that there is, that it would probably soften the landing, because the self-awareness is increased, because everyone's talking about there's a bubble. Okay, how do we make sure there's not? Okay, well, let's address these things over here, here, and here. It's the things that you don't see coming that really makes a bubble be a bubble and for it ultimately to pop. I mean, there can be agreement sometimes that there is, and then it never happens the way that you quite expect. It's almost like a rule of bubbles. You don't see it coming. Like, very few people do. So to continue and finish this point, training is part of any AI project, but it sounds like, interesting, it sounds like Amazon wasn't making much progress even after years of working on the project. So that sounds like interpretation. Okay, fine. As of mid-2022, Just Walkout required about 700 human reviews per 1,000 sales, far above the internal target of reducing the number of reviews between 20 and 50 per 1,000 sales. So again, the program was early on. It seems like that they under-resourced this project. It seems like something, especially by today's infrastructure that's available in terms of GPU power, compute power, that this would actually be quite a solvable problem in terms of just like tracking and visually identifying like what are the items that are being picked up. It's actually a pretty good idea, I think, for consumers. Like, how much time do you spend just waiting in line at checkout, even self-checkout? Wouldn't it be a lot more convenient just to literally pick up your items and walk out? So the point is here that like there was actual AI involved, but the media and everyone else piled on, which it appears was a key factor in terms of reading this and other articles that I talked about in another video called the AI Lies and the Lying Liars Who Tell Them. If you want to go check that out, I go into more detail on it. But basically they're saying Amazon is lying, but in fact, the people who are reporting on this just haven't done the research, and I guess you might call that at a minimum being unfair to the truth. So yeah, I mean, there was actual AI involved, but maybe it just wasn't as accurate. They didn't want to lose money on it, so it takes a while to actually train these models. So I think there's a lot of nuance in this story, and I mean, Amazon doesn't need any of our sympathy, but I think we should care about what is actually true and what is not. So there was an AI model actually involved here. It wasn't like just it wasn't just humans behind the scenes, like just like really rapidly. No, there was actually AI involved, and they were training it. They were in the process of training it. Probably just needed more data and or better AI experts on the project. Continuing.
That the software has failed to generate any sort of new revenue. So when exactly will this bubble burst? Because it's gotta give eventually, right? Well, I'm neither an economist nor a historian, so I can't really tell you, but people much smarter than me estimate that all of this spending in infrastructure and AI chips will lead to a crash sometime within the next few years. Economist blogger Noah Smith outlined 4 conditions of an upcoming crash. The first is that we have a big story about why this time is different, the idea that AI will change everything and that data centers will thus earn huge returns. The second condition is that we have a large and increasing amount of debt being used to fund one single sector of the economy, that's data centers, meaning that the loan's default probability is probably highly correlated. The third condition is that we have an opaque corner of the financial system, that's private credit, that has recently grown from a tiny piece of the system to a very significant piece. And the fourth condition is that we have systemically important lenders, like banks and possibly insurance companies, enmeshed in the new sector of data centers in a multitude of ways. It seems that the rise in AI hits all four of those conditions. I also forgot to mention a couple important points that I want to briefly bring up because I think they're important to raise awareness around. And the first is that these data centers are disrupting many people's living conditions. Residential communities in Northern Virginia, for example, are getting boxed in by AI giants, overtaking spaces once belonging to offices, churches, and historic sites. A 2024 economic impact report stated that a third of data centers are currently located near residential areas, thanks in large part to, quote, inadequate local planning and zoning. And this is ruining the residents' quality of life. The other thing I wanted to bring up is the absolutely absurd amount of energy and resources required in order to run the
I wonder how it is ruining. How does it ruin a resident's quality of life? Is there risk of radiation? I don't believe so. Um, I mean, I have heard, and it sounds reasonable, that electric bills have gone up significantly. In one extreme case, I heard their bill went up by over 800%. So, but I mean, is it making a lot of noise? Is it loud? I don't think that that would be allowed in most jurisdictions. Most counties have, sound ordinance rules. And I mean, servers, they have a bit of a hum to them, but if they're enclosed in a large building with relatively, I guess, thick industrial walls, not sure it would be sound. So how exactly is it affecting? Is it just an eyesore? Like what was there before? They said historic sites. I would say that's probably more rare. Like, how do you define a historic site? Is that someone's opinion, or was that actual fact that something was designated a historical site, and then just bulldoze it over? Yeah, just sorry, grandma of the War of 1812, defense against the British, part two, American history. Sorry, Grandma America, just we're gonna put some data centers here. Yeah, I don't know about that. I mean, again, there's so much nuance that I think is not being captured well in terms of a lot of what Cole is presenting here. Perhaps you disagree. If you let me know, um, leave a comment and give a thumbs up for disagreeing.
these data centers. The latest reports show that 4.4% of all the energy in the US now goes toward data centers. The carbon intensity of electricity used by data centers was 48% higher than the US average. At the same time, many data centers are shifting toward more carbon-heavy energy sources, such as natural gas, to meet short-term demand, producing a growing trail of emissions as a result. So now,
I mean, a lot of these companies, like Google included, they used to have the carbon neutral since, was it 2003 or 2005 on their homepage for the longest period of time. But oh, look, there's a profit incentive. I mean, not to sound too cynical about it, but oh, look, so much for climate change. That's no longer on the homepage, and all these other companies. If you look at the donations that are being made, at least in the last presidential election cycle, I can't speak for all the companies, but I know specifically for Facebook and Google, it's somewhere above 90% for Google specifically. One stat that I saw was 98%. And I reserve judgment on climate change, which is oddly a controversial position these days, to reserve judgment, to say, well, I'm not a climate scientist. I do agree that we should have clean air and clean water, and I think we can all agree on that. I mean, no one wants to breathe in smoke, smog. It seems possible, perhaps even probable. I don't know that putting lots of carbon into the air could have some sort of downstream effects, like what is claimed by climate change agreeers, if you will. But I reserve judgment, and that is somehow controversial in today's age, because everyone agrees, everyone knows who's not a climate scientist, so you have to agree. But it is rather funny, right? 98% of these at least in Google's case, and probably similar numbers for these other big tech firms, donated to left-leaning political campaigns, especially for president. And yet the biggest technology investments at the actual core of these businesses then and today are incredibly um, carbon producing technologies, relying on, as he said, natural gas and fossil fuels. So
Now we've thoroughly explored the damaging consequences this unprecedented investment in AI is going to have on the world and the economy in the future. And since that is the case, why would I ever argue that the rise in AI is a good thing? Well, I'd like to preface this by saying it's undoubtedly done more harm than good. The amount of resources being sapped up just to power this stuff has not at all paid off in terms of what it's created so far. And I don't think that the upcoming job crisis and people losing jobs because the economy is going to go to crap or because AI is going to replace certain people in jobs is a good thing either. The only good thing I'm really talking about when I say some good will come out of this is how this is only accelerating the demand for more human-like spaces in the modern world. It's no secret by now that the internet and social media has gotten progressively worse over the past decade. When all of these platforms started designing future updates around one metric, time spent watching, the social aspect of social media started to diminish. Subscription feeds were replaced with recommended homepages, short-form content grew dramatically in popularity, and the algorithms began to adapt to your interests in real time. This created a fundamental shift in our purposes for spending time on social media. After 2014, people's reasons for using social media flipped dramatically, from one of keeping up with friends and meeting new people, to instead following celebrities and filling spare time. This was no accident. Big tech corporations realized that it's more profitable to foster attention than genuine connection, and therefore transformed creators' incentives from one of building community to feeding the algorithmic void. I'm not sure how many of you agree with me here, but even though I still use social media for a couple hours a day, I feel like that couple hours is just so much less enjoyable than it used to be in, let's say, 2016. Like sometimes I'll just be scrolling or watching some videos or hovering over a video on my YouTube home feed, and I'll just stop and think to myself, like, why am I here? Why am I doing this? I've said this in a previous video discussing these sorts of critiques in more detail, but when creators are incentivized to appeal to an algorithm, this makes their content more algorithmic and robot-like. Whereas in the past you might have felt a real connection with some of the biggest creators on each platform because they just seem like funny, down-to-earth humans, now they feel disgustingly sterile and fake, if that makes sense. And with
in another recent video where I talked about how to market your business when 100% of the internet is fake or AI generated. One of the recommendations I made in that video in terms of where businesses should invest and put their time, attention, and energy, and I say this not just as a business owner, but as someone who is an expert in digital marketing and sales funnels. And I've built Grobo to be a seven-figure business when we hit seven figures for the first time in 2021. So I know a thing or two about marketing, and that's literally been our business. Is we provide an on-demand marketing fulfillment team for other companies. So if you know of someone, referrals are appreciated. You can go to grobo.com to learn more. We also have a generous affiliate commission. If you want to check that out, the link is in the description. But I think that to future-proof your business in terms of marketing, especially with traffic falling from these different traffic sources, including the social organic platforms. There's so much more competition flooding in because Google with AI overviews, those AI descriptions at the top of search when you search for something. There's little to no need for people to click through to search results anymore because Google's AI just scrapes the content and the answers right off your website. So our organic traffic that we invested thousands of hours of time into creating hundreds of original articles, we used to get tens of thousands of visits for that. And a lot of those visits would turn into customers and clients. And now that has been reduced by about 85%. And it's not getting any better. And we're not alone. We're talking about HubSpot, like a $12 billion publicly traded company. We're talking about a well-known company like Forbes, for example. Many other big publications, just traffic falling by 80 to 90%. Now it depends on what industry you're in. Like if you're a local business, local SEO is actually pretty big right now. So, and I think for some other industries, they're less affected. But you know, Google and other platforms, they want to keep that traffic if they can on their platform. Um, so
With AI entering the picture, it's starting to become a place that feels less human than ever.
So just to finish the point in case I didn't already, to future proof your business, think about doing in-person events. Okay, building your own networking events. This is something that I've already started to do for my business and personally. I'm lucky because I have a foundation to build on actually right now, and just people really seem to crave in-person connection. There really seems to be a real craving for it. And I'm not even in a major metro area. I'm in, in Florida. I'm not near like Miami, for example. Um, so yeah, just and also services that include services or marketing in general that creates more of a human connection, like live webinars, live videos, coaching, for instance. These will continue to be in demand for quite some time.
Before. Companies are spending obscene amounts of money trying to figure out where AI can make a profit, which has just created so much junk AI tools and content that cannot possibly last. But if AI slop continues to seep deeper into these platforms, becoming both indistinguishable from reality yet unmistakably inhuman, and people keep outsourcing more of what once required a human touch, it's inevitable that demand will surge for anything that can proudly declare no AI involved, aka real human creativity and community. I'd imagine that in the near future, there will be a social platform specifically designed with that principle in mind, that doesn't allow short-form content and prioritizes subscriber-driven communities over recommendations. And on that platform, there could be some sort of filter that automatically bans AI content and creators. And I know that that sort of platform might never be as profitable as what these big tech companies are producing, but I feel like there's still going to be a demand for something like that if we continue being on the internet. The same can be said for other industries.
Interesting. I agree with Cole's thoughts here. More than you know. And if you'd like to know what I mean by more than you know, I encourage you to stay tuned and hit subscribe. I'll be sharing some interesting news coming up very soon that might end up being a big deal.
If AI becomes heavily relied upon in all these sectors, what will emerge from that are these specific human-only creativity and labor sectors, where the usage of AI is banned from them, and maybe the people working in these industries can charge a premium. And overall, I think the closer we get to the breaking point where most people are saying, this garbage slop is terrible and I can't take it anymore and it's making me feel awful and disconnected from anything, the closer we are to getting a revival of touching grass, aka being chronically offline. In fact, I think we're already seeing these trends creeping up under the surface. Everyone is chronically burnt out from an onslaught of digital devices attacking their retinas, and all this data coming out about loneliness rates and the dangers social media has on mental health. People are even getting AI psychosis now, which honestly is worth making an entire video about. And while there will always be people who succumb to it, the increased awareness of these facts is creating a revival in certain corners of the internet to be human and real and novel without trying to heavily appeal to the algorithm and maximize engagement. In other words, the faster AI accelerates, the faster the desire to return to human accelerates. And I know, why couldn't we have gotten to this point without the economy erupting and AI causing all this damage? I get it, but what you can do right now to change the trend is to keep engaging with the right content, raising awareness around these issues, and choosing to disengage with what big tech companies want you to engage with. I'm not looking forward to potentially suffering in a few years when this bubble bursts, but I am looking forward to a future where the purpose of the internet reverts back to one of connection rather than optimization. And if that doesn't happen, because it might not, then at the very least, I do think being chronically offline will become the new cool. Sometimes all it takes for a beautiful renaissance to blossom is to be preceded by total destruction and chaos, which sucks, but at least it makes me hopeful for the future.
Well said. Well said. Cole, you gotta like. I think that you need a little more nuance in your video here and there. But overall, I think the message and the ideas are worth highlighting for a lot of people to hear. Um, and I agree. I think that there will be a backlash because when the cost of producing this content just continuously drops, and as we as humans we continuously become more aware, and also the data sets, it becomes harder for these AI companies to produce clean data sets. In other words, like not polluted with AI slop itself, or then it's kind of like the snake eating itself, which can cause degradation. I mean, you have to filter out any content before November of 2022, basically, or even a little bit before then, to make sure that there's no AI content in there, in order to train an effective AI model. Because even just a small set of documents, as proved by Claude and the recent research, can pollute a data set and can even create security vulnerabilities. It can be used as a hack attack, online, by putting out some sort of a data on GitHub, for example. Then the AI model ingests it, is trained on it, and then it's vulnerable to output to give certain outputs as a result. So I think that the concluding message here is positive and good, and that's why Cole has earned a like from me. And speaking of you being human and earning likes, if you feel that you got value from this video, please let me know by giving a like, and that will help to tell me that I should make more content like this, that you're getting value and benefit from it, and that you enjoy hearing this type of analysis where I'm not always watching and giving like a reaction type of video, like in this case, but I do it on occasion. And I also make original videos, thought pieces, talking about what is going on in the news in terms of AI, the economy, marketing, business, startups. So let me know what you think in the comments. Give a like. And if you found this valuable, please consider sharing it with someone else. So thank you so much. I like you for watching this far. And for doing so, here is my prediction and the kind of question that I said that I would answer earlier on, only for those of you who have watched this far. So you're special. So thank you. So the answer to the question of what is the underlying assumption that I think people aren't fully seeing that may actually cause the AI bubble to pop? Did you pick up on it? Well, it's directly related to building all these data centers, to building, these data centers which are centrally located. I mean, for example, the internet used to be more of a command and control type of structure. Like a mainframe computers, like within an office, there'd be one main computer, and then other interfaces within the building would like hook up to that mainframe, rather there being PCs, personal computers, our individual laptops, right? Individual phones, tablets. And right now, the age of AI is designed in a much more of a mainframe centralized type of way, where we are, every time that we are, and I'm not done, so you might think you know where I'm going with this, but hold on, because there's more. Right now, we have this design where every time we query ChatGPT or Claude or whatever, it is going and it is pinging that model. And it is at some data center, in whatever, Arizona, Nevada, wherever it might be. And it brings back the answer to us, right? However, open source models are only a matter of months consistently behind these much larger and allegedly much better trained closed source models from companies like OpenAI, or Claude, for instance. And it's getting easier and easier to run these models on our local machines. So that's one thing. Like the computing structure, that is the assumption. One of the assumptions, there are two. One of the assumptions regarding that I think could be the real reason why the AI bubble bursts. One of the assumptions is that, well, we need all this compute structure to serve these AI models. Like, put the AI model that we've invested, hundreds of millions, billions to train, onto these different servers, deploy all the servers, and that way we can handle the traffic, right? We can handle the traffic of multiple queries coming in from millions of different people every single day. Cool. But will it stay that way? Or will there be a better distributed model where we're running these AI models locally and more privately and more accurately and faster on our own machines? So that's assumption number one. Assumption number two is that the way that AI models are trained today will still be the way that AI models will continue to be trained in the future, where you need all this massive compute in order to stuff the data into these, to stuff the data and training into these AI brains so that they become functional brains. I think there's a better way. I think that way is coming. I think you will be able to train the AI models, the AI, I predict that within 5 years, perhaps within 3 years, that we will be able to train a chat GPT-5 level AI model, aka AI brain, on a fairly standard, maybe slightly above average laptop with a decent graphics card. Might not even need the graphics card, which I know sounds wild, especially for anyone who's an engineer in the audience who has worked with AI models might be, Matt, what the fuck are you talking about? But that's my prediction, and I'm deadly serious about it. And this is what could cause the AI bubble to truly pop, because such an innovation that would make these data centers basically worthless would violate or disrupt the current need or the current premise, which is those two assumptions. So I'll leave you with that, and I'll see you in the comments. Please subscribe, like, and share. Thank you.